What's going on, YouTube? It's Matt Faircloth, my man, my partner in crime, on the road today, Justin Fraser. Come on in, Justin. How are you today, brother?
Hey, Matt, what's happening?
Who do we got today, Justin? Who's our guest? Come on into Mentorship Monday.
Today we have Sam. Sam, come on in. Hey, Sam.
What's up, man?
How's it going? Okay, so I'm a pretty new wholesaler. I've started doing this a couple of months ago, and basically I'm still having problems figuring out the ARV and the repair cost. And I'm interested in wholesaling both to investors as well as doing what's called wholetailing.
Yeah.
Buying a property which is in a pretty good shape and then figuring out what the buy price should be so I can sell it to a retail buyer. So can you help me with that?
Sure. Yeah. So what I hear is that, and I love that wholetailing name. Whoever thought of that, man? I hope they get a nickel every time somebody uses it, man. That's a cool name.
Can we start by saying what not to do? Maybe we start there because
Yeah.
if I'm a buyer and I am and have been for many years, and I get a ton of wholesale deals and not as much anymore because of where we're focusing, but for a long time, and pretty much any time a wholesale, except for Steve Chatto, by the way, who's leaving a comment, would send me something, I pretty much would delete it because after the first few, you realize who is serious and who is not. And for me, the quickest way to tell a good wholesaler is a wholesaler that actually does the work. And the work is what you're describing here. How much does it need, and what is it going to sell for? Because if every time I get an email that says, "Oh, it's a $100K upside with $5,000 worth of work," it's like trash.
Right.
And so wholesalers have gotten a really bad reputation in that they're not adding value, right? Because an email with those numbers, there's no value to me there because I don't believe it. There's no credibility. So for me, the whole answer that Matt's going to get into is going to predicate on how do you build trust and reliability so that me as a buyer believe you, Sam, when you say I've got a deal for you.
I love that, Justin. I think you nailed it on the head. The biggest thing I've seen wholesalers do, Sam, is they're going to come in and tell me that magically I'm going to redo a kitchen and a bathroom and repaint the house and fix a leaky roof and do some landscaping for like $5,000. So there's just unrealistic repair numbers. And I get that unrealistic repair numbers make your purchase number more palatable because then it's like, well, okay, I guess I can give you 90 grand for that property, put 5 grand into it and sell it for 140. But the problem is your repair number is not right. So what I would do is, number one, get to understand rehab cost by talking to other investors and say, what's the average repair cost for a single family home? If you want to get more technical, you can go dollars per square foot. There's a book Jay Scott has out on Bigger Pockets, the book on estimating rehab costs. Yeah, it's a great book. I would consider picking that book up and learning rehab costs. Then what you want to do, Sam, is the easiest thing that you can do to determine the top line sell price of a property on what the end buyer in the market should be paying for it. Right. And then you're going to back out the real rehab number, back out maybe a profit figure if they're going to do a flip, or if they're going to do a rental, maybe some yield spread in there for like a BRRRR strategy or something like that. So, by the way, you said you're new. There's a lot of great books for you to be reading right there. There's the BRRRR book from David Green, and there's Jay Scott's book on estimating rehab costs. Read those two books. And the best way that you can be the best vendor to investors, to the folks that want to buy rentals and stuff like that, as a wholesaler, is to get inside their mindset. And those folks read those books too. You'll be a better wholesaling vendor and get to the point where wholesalers are, like my man Steve Chatto, who could be closing 5 to 10 deals in any given month as a wholesaler, right? That's great cash flow as a vendor to investors, right? So, but the way he got there was by understanding the investor mindset. That's why he's different than most other wholesalers. Now, determining comps, I like Zillow, the Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com. Realtor.com is probably a better one because Realtor.com is directly tied into the MLS. Zillow and Trulia are too. Those are almost as good as you getting direct MLS access, which you can get if you get your real estate license. Mm-hmm. Now, in New Jersey, getting a real estate license takes a whopping 2 weeks. Where are you located?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas. You can look into it. I mean, and look into getting a license in some states. The only reason I would do that is because you could have direct MLS access, you know. But Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com actually give you pricing data for those markets. What they don't give you as well is historical data, meaning like, you know, properties that have sold over years and years. They do give past sales, but I find Zillow and Trulia, I've been unable to figure this out. But what they'll do is they'll show me anything that's sold over the last 10 years in a neighborhood. I don't want to see that. I want to see what's sold in the last 180 days, you know, when I'm looking at a market. And I find it hard to filter that. Justin, have you looked on the residential sites like that, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com as sources for pricing?
I think Zillow, you can get the historical data. It'll show you tax history and purchase history on the individual properties. And again, the whole success of a wholesaler for me is about accuracy of the information that you're providing. So I love what Matt said about, you know, the reading the books, and you absolutely should, because you need to have an idea of what you're speaking about. But I would suggest taking it a step further. And if you want to build a legit wholesaling business, why not partner with a contractor who can give you real estimates? How valuable, Matt, would it be for you if a wholesaler approaches you with a full set of comps to support their ARV and a scope of work and a bid from a contractor saying, here's the kitchen, bathroom, etc., and this contractor will do it for $30,000. And now I feel a lot more confident that this wholesaler has actually done their homework and the numbers are more legitimate.
That's brilliant. I've actually never seen that done, but Sam, I cannot imagine the level of work, not the level of buying that you would get. That's not that much work to get that. That's why I said the level of work, because think of how much work would that be? Well, if you got a contractor willing to do the work to reno, and they're willing to come in and bid it for you, to turn that over to an investor. So it's like a deal on the silver platter. And eventually my guess is you want to wholesale so you can eventually build up some cash coffers, start doing your own deals, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. What better way to become a better long-term hold investor long-term than to act as if, even when you're wholesaling, act as if you're going to buy it yourself. So bring the contractor in, underwrite the deal as an owner, and everything like that. I think that's the mindset. Use those resources online, like I said, and read those 2 books that I suggested. Use the Bigger Pockets calculators that they have. You can underwrite the deals there too. So let's reality check. How's it going? What do you think?
Can I get the names of those books again?
Sure. It's the book on estimating rehab cost by Jay Scott. And then there's the BRRRR strategy. It's B and then 4 R's. Buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, repeat. BRRRR. It's a stupid name, but it makes sense. It's the BRRRR strategy. Okay.
Here's the tough thing about wholesaling is you've got to know the sale exit price. You've got to know what a good deal looks like on the buy side. You've got to be great at connecting with people and these people that are going to sell you these houses. And then you've got to have a really good idea on the renovation side. So I would suggest you assess all the pieces of wholesaling, figure out what you're good at and what you have to bring someone in on. You know, I made an assumption that you don't know renovation costs. You know, I think that's what you asked about initially. So if you're good at like finding the deals and the marketing, great. And then find the pieces you're not great at and sub in and bring people in. And, you know, you got to find the right kind of contractor to do what I suggested before. But if they're an investor, or listen, if I get a bid from a contractor and I'm wholesaling this out, I'm buying a wholesale house, I'm probably going to use that contractor, right? So there is incentive. You're not just asking someone to do work out of the blue. There's incentive that they might get that work.
Now, some wholesalers are hearing this conversation going like, well, why would I go do all this work for investors? You know, well, so they'll gladly pay your $5,000, $10,000 or $15,000 markup on the property price, you know, and they'll come back to you over and over again because they'll know, well, Sam's the guy that goes and does a lot of homework for me, and he tees up the ball right there so I can just smack it out and grow my business. And eventually you'll learn how to do it yourself.
And the reason I think I suggest that is because wholesaling is a crowded space. So just like anything that's very crowded, how are you going to differentiate yourself? How are you going to stand out from the 100 other emails I get on Monday morning, listing sometimes even the same property, right? And or the spam text message or email chains that you get. And how are you, Sam, going to stand out? And I want you to stand out to your buyers.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam? Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Actually, I've got a contractor who goes with me, but it's like different contractors. You have different numbers, so I'm still not sure which numbers are right.
It doesn't. Well, you know what though, Sam? You're not guaranteeing those prices. When those guys go in and say, "Yeah, it's going to cost 30 grand," that's just a price from a vendor. Other real estate investors might look at this and no, I'm going to use my guy. And the big time real estate investors, when I used to do a lot of single family homes and stuff like that, they have an in-house crew. Like we used to have an in-house team that did all of our physical renovations and all that. So just because you give them a bid from a vendor doesn't mean that they have to use that vendor. I mean, if the vendors never get any work out of you, then they might stop giving you prices. So you might want to try and make sure they get taken care of and all that. But I mean, it's a nice strategy. I like that.
I know it's tough right now with COVID, and I'm not sure where Texas is in all of this, but find a wholesaler that's active and successful in your market and see if you can spend some time with them. Figure out how you can add value to their business and gain something from it. So maybe they need you to drive houses and look at vacants, or maybe they need you to meet an inspector or shadow a seller or do paperwork or whatever a wholesaler might need. See if you can take some of that off their plate and sort of learn from them by adding value to their business. And then eventually you'll get more confident with the numbers, you'll get confident in the neighborhoods, and you'll start to see how that's going, and you'll be able to model your business after their business.
Now, going to the ARV, what I generally do is I look at 5 or 6 houses in the area and look at what the price per foot that they sold for and find out the average and multiply it by my subject property size. The question I have is if there are two comps that are relatively the same square foot, lot size, same bedrooms, bathrooms, same features, but one sold for like 155K and one sold for 170K. Which one should I consider?
You got to find out. You got to figure out what that was. That's a great lesson to look at that and say, okay, buyers aren't going to just pay an extra 20 grand for something. I would dial deep into that listing and say, what did they do? Why? What was there? A finished basement? Was there like more land? Was there a pool in the backyard? Were the taxes cheap? This is a good learning experience for you to dive in and find out what drove that price $20,000 more. Because here's the thing, whatever it was, if you can recreate that on another deal or show investors that it's possible, that's 20 grand more in their pocket or yours, right? And don't be afraid to call the realtor. Call the agent for the 175,000 one or for the 150,000 one, right? And say, hey, I saw this other property that sold for so much different of a price. Help me understand why. The one for the 175 will gladly tell you why it was.
And to that point, that's really great. So let's say it's all houses in a row, but one had an extra half bath because they take a closet and made a half bath. Well, now you've got the recipe, right? Now okay, I can go down this line to add an extra half bath and get an extra 20 grand for it, and it only cost me $6,000 to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got that recipe. So that's absolutely right what Matt said. Dig in on those numbers and find out what the difference was, and that'll help you narrow down your focus and be able for you to better project that ARV to your buyers.
And also, Sam, only look at sold properties. Don't look at stuff that's asking, because you can have people that just think that they can get an extra 30 grand for their house. So it might be like right next door to the one that sold for 150. It might be a house for sale for 185. That doesn't mean they're going to get it and all that. So I look more at solds.
What's the value that you are bringing? Usually it's what Matt said: fast, no hassle. I did one wholesale deal in my life, and it was a hoarder house. You couldn't walk in, she like the smell, and she just needed it gone. And we had it gone the next week. Right. Yeah. And that was it. No hassle, no one walking through. It was like an embarrassment thing. We just took care of it. Right. Gave her a price. She started like talking to someone else. Oh, maybe I can get 11 or 12 or more. I'm like, fine, go with whatever you want.
Take them through
right here with the cash, no hassle. She called me a week later and said, let's go, let's do it. I know you're going to give it to me. And she got the cash and she moved on. So I solved that problem for her. So figure out what value you're bringing to that buyer. And every buyer might have a different, criteria for reason why they want to sell or they have to sell. You just have to listen as you're speaking to them and figure out how what you're offering solves that problem.
Like once I buy a property or once I put a property under contract, is there normally a few days that you have before with which you can find a buyer, or do you need to get an option period?
No, you should try and negotiate at least 2 to 3 weeks, for yourself to try and find a buyer. And you got to find buyers that can close that fast. And the way you protect yourself if you can't find a buyer is low deposit. Like I've seen most wholesale contracts that I see have the deposit being $100. So if you can't find a buyer, you lose $100. All right, cool. Sam, thanks for being with us today, buddy.
Thanks, Sam. Good
Justin,
stuff,
man, that was good stuff. Listen, I haven't done many wholesale deals, but I still understand the business in that. And for those of you guys watching, wholesaling in itself is a business. It is a grind, but it can be extremely lucrative. So I recommend it for those of you guys that are good system and process thinkers. All right, man.
Have a great and profitable week. Ooh, I beat you to it.